Hey everybody, it's Chainsaw. Welcome to my first official audio podcast. I've been thinking about doing a podcast for quite some time, ever since I created the new Chainsaw Reacts channel, created back in October of 2014. And so I'm going to try it here today, discussing the big news that came out a couple days ago as I'm recording this podcast. And we'll see what happens. If you guys enjoy this audio format and enjoying a longer type of video to where I discuss things that I like to talk about, like movie news and just movies in general, video game news, and maybe some TV shows and TV stuff here and there as well. If you guys like this format and would like to see this continue, let me know in the comment section below. I'm really hoping that this is going to be something you guys enjoy, and I'm hoping I'll like it as well. Anyways, without all this introduction, this will not happen every podcast, just talking and rambling and not getting to the main point. Let's get to the main point, everybody. Spider-Man. Marvel and Sony created the deal. Now, I said in my reaction video, and I still hold to this, is that this is the biggest news we have gotten in forever. Honestly, I can't think of anything that has came out movie news wise that has stood out this much and has gotten this much praise back. I mean, the only thing that I can think of to this magnitude, well, not really close enough, but pretty big Marvel related news was the Iron Man Captain America collaboration for Civil War, where Iron Man was going to, of course, is going to be appearing in Civil War. So this Spider-Man news is huge. And I do want to bring it up again, and I did mention in my react video to the news about the fact that the announcement of this came when everything died down about the rumors about this. I think maybe they planned that out because when the Sony leaks happened because of the movie The Interview, there was emails leaked about, Sony and Marvel having discussions about Spider-Man, about bringing Spider-Man into the cinematic universe and them having some, deals with money and distribution and rights and all that stuff. And then the last thing that we were told, well, not really told, but rumor wise, because rumors are being spread left and right about Spider-Man and all this stuff involved with the cinematic universe and Sony. The last thing we heard before the official announcement, the last thing we heard was that the deal did happen, and this was not confirmed. This was just speculation. The deal did happen, and that Spider-Man was going to be appearing in Avengers Infinity War Part 1, not Part 2, just Part 1, and that he was not going to be appearing in Civil War. Now that this has been confirmed, and now that he is coming into the cinematic universe, that he will be first appearing in a Marvel cinematic film first, and then a solo film on July 28th, 2017. And I think this is interesting because the only films that are coming out from now until that release date in 2017 for the first solo Spider-Man film after this deal with Sony and Marvel, the only four films that we have to deal with here is, of course, Avengers Age of Ultron, which at this point, as I'm recording this podcast, there was a couple tweets going out about how this film, The Age of Ultron, was already shown to some people over at Marvel, and there was a lot of positive feedback. So he's probably not going to show up in Age of Ultron. If he does, it's going to happen after an end credit scene, but I doubt the after end credit scene will be Spider-Man. Then the next thing we have is Ant-Man. I doubt he will appear in Ant-Man because to me, Ant-Man is the most complex film. Doctor Strange, you could say, is complex, but I think that Ant-Man, the character, is going to be very complex, so I doubt they're going to introduce Spider-Man into that film. The only thing we have left, if he's not going to appear in Age of Ultron unless it's an after end credit scene, it's not going to be Ant-Man, and it's not going to be Doctor Strange. Civil War. It makes perfect sense. Spider-Man was the main middle guy in that storyline. And of course, before the announcement of Spider-Man, Black Panther was announced back in October of 2014 to be, and of course, with this news of Spider-Man, I'm thinking that Black Panther and Spider-Man are going to be split, and to where they're both going to be the middle guy. They're both going to be the guys going, I don't know what side to pick, or they don't pick a side because they don't feel like it's right to pick a side. Who knows? But this news is interesting to me, and I feel like that if they're going to introduce Spider-Man first, in my personal opinion, it has to be Civil War. I think that's the perfect place for him. You introduce Spider-Man not only into the cinematic universe, but into a film with Black Panther, who's getting his first introduction, Captain America, Iron Man, Black Widow, the Winter Soldier. and I believe Crossbones, excuse me, is going to be returning as well. So he got burned up in the second film, and there's also other cast members returning as well. But who knows exactly who's returning? Oh yeah, of course, Falcon is returning as well for that film. Plus, possibly some other Avengers or possibly other sub characters, like secondary characters, may also be appearing in Civil War because it's a huge film. Basically, Civil War is going to become another Avenger film. They're just not fighting a villain per se. It's just the two main people, a part of the Avengers, Iron Man and Captain America, going at each other. So with all this exposure of all the people confirmed that I just said, everyone confirmed for the film as of right now is Black Panther, Iron Man, Captain America, Black Widow, Falcon, the Winter Soldier. It seems like Spider-Man's the perfect fit to be put in there because he's being put in with the two biggest people a part of the cinematic universe, which is Captain America and Iron Man, and so that's going to really boost audiences' opinion and thoughts about the new Spider-Man. And then that very next year, he gets his own solo film. Now, another thing I've been thinking about, we're just speculating here and talking about this stuff, unconfirmed stuff, just having some fun. Let me know what you guys think about this. What if he does appear in Civil War, Spider-Man? What happens if the Civil War storyline does not end in Captain America: Civil War and continues on in some sort of way into the solo Spider-Man film? That would be interesting because there was confirmed talks and they were discussing about Spider-Man, of course, coming over into the cinematic universe and also bringing cinematic universe characters to the Spider-Man world. So they could easily not fully finish up the story, the plot of the plot of Civil War in Captain America: Civil War, and have maybe Black Widow or Falcon or both of them, or maybe even Iron Man or somebody appearing within the Spider-Man solo film in some scenes and not take over the entire film as Spider-Man Civil War, but have some sort of connection and showing that storyline is still happening and they can finish it off within another film. So that's pretty interesting. I thought about that because that would be interesting if they decided to go that route with still continuing the story, not be the main story, the main plot of the solo Spider-Man film, but have it continue as it is a big deal. A 2 hour plus film of Civil War, that's going to be interesting if they do complete it in one film. So that was just my thought about maybe it would be interesting if they did continue it in some sort of way into the Spider-Man solo film. Now, what I do like about this deal, and a lot of people are still having some issues with it because Spider-Man is not really back at Marvel. Spider-Man is still owned by Sony. They just came up with a deal which is not really. There's not really a lot of confirmation to what exactly this deal does, besides the fact that Kevin Feige is co-producing with Amy Pascal on the first Spider-Man solo film, and of course he appears first in Marvel, and then appears in a solo film, after that. But besides that, we're not really sure what's really happening. But what I do like about this, the only positive I can really think about, with Sony still owning the rights to Spider-Man and still, able to make the solo films, and Marvel Studios not having to do it, is because Sony is able to create a Spider-Man film realistically every 2 years. Because if you look at the timeline of what Marvel Studios has done, look at Phase 3, for example. In Phase 3, we have Thor 3, Captain America 3, and then we have a bunch of, films introducing, of course, Guardians of the Galaxy 2, excuse me. And then the rest of it is basically new stuff. Black Panther, Doctor Strange, Inhumans, Captain Marvel, and of course the two Avenger films split into two films. However, if Spider-Man was fully back at Marvel Studios, if Spider-Man was completely 100% no deal with Sony, Marvel had the film rights 100% for Spider-Man, we would get a Spider-Man film every phase. One movie every phase. So Phase 4, if Marvel owned the rights, you would only see one Spider-Man film. But the dates can't really collide with each other. So my thoughts and initial thinking about this is that Sony still has the rights. They talk with Marvel. They figure out what will be Phase 4. they could easily fit two Spider-Man films within Phase 4 because these phases are getting longer and longer and longer and longer. The start of Phase 3 is in 2016, and it's now not ending until 2019. So by the time 2019 rolls around, they could easily put out Spider-Man 2 in the end of 2019, like a November or an October date of 2019, because we're getting a July 28th of 2017, the first Spider-Man film. And if Sony is still owning the rights, as long as they're not colliding and being too close to release to another Marvel Studios film within the cinematic universe, we could see another Spider-Man film in 2019, and then Phase 4 starts with maybe the Spider-Man film, the second Spider-Man film, and then within somewhere in 2021, we get the third solo Spider-Man film. So that would be interesting too. So that's the only thing really positive I can think of that of Sony still owning the rights to Spider-Man solo stuff, because if Marvel did it, Phase 4, we'd get one Spider-Man film a phase, and that's, kind of depressing. So that's the only positive I can think of. Now on to the thoughts about how big is Spider-Man going to be within the cinematic universe. For me, it looks like it's going to be this. Phase 3 is going to be the ending of everything that Marvel has created since Phase 1. Since the first Iron Man film, when Tony Stark was in his house and Nick Fury walked in and brought up the fact that I'm looking for a team, and from that point up until the end of Phase 3 will be the ending of everything. Everything is going to come to a head because they were teasing Thanos in Avengers 1. So this is the end of this era. The three phases that have been linking up. So with that in mind, it seems like that Thor, Chris Evans as Captain America, Robert Downey Jr. maybe as Iron Man, may no longer continue after Phase 3. Not going to say they die, but they may kill them off or retire the character. I don't know. Because Chris Evans has spoken about how at the end of his Marvel contract he was going to step away from acting and going to directing. Chris Hemsworth, on the other hand, Thor, the mighty Thor, has said that he loves the contract with Marvel, so maybe he may continue in some sort of way into Phase 4. And Robert Downey Jr. was flip-flopping back and forth about they were in talks, he's not really sure. So he's gonna run this thing till the bitter end. So we might be seeing Iron Man in Phase 5 and Phase 6, who knows, as an older Iron Man. But the way that they're bringing in Spider-Man and how they're going to introduce him in Civil War, rumor, but it's basically going to happen because that's the only film he can come in that would be worth him coming in first, is Civil War, the biggest film of Phase 3 up to that point, at the start of Phase 3, it just makes sense. Then, is Spider-Man going to be the main guy in Phase 4? Is Phase 4 going to be all about Spider-Man? Not the sense of every movie is Spider-Man, but the thing is that Spider-Man, in my mind, and to a lot of people's mind, is the face of Marvel. He is one of the most beloved characters of Marvel. And if they no longer have Chris Evans as Captain America, and let's say Chris Hemsworth, his contract, he doesn't want to continue, or they want to retire the Thor character after Phase 3, and maybe Iron Man is basically going to be the only guy continuing out of the main three that we are used to in the cinematic universe, but not so much, not really appearing in a lot of stuff until the next Avengers film, maybe, hypothetically speaking. Is Spider-Man going to be the new face of Phase 4? Is he going to be the new big get? The new thing that everybody loves in Phase 4? Because Phase 1 and Phase 2 and up to Phase 3 is going to be, the main three, which is Captain America, Iron Man, and Thor. Hulk, yeah, we get it, but Hulk, we've only seen him, his second time is only showing up in Age of Ultron, so the main three is going to have to be Iron Man, Captain America, and Thor. But I'm thinking Spider-Man might be the guy. He might be the guy that takes over the main focus of what we're going to be focusing on in Phase 4 leading up to the fourth Avengers film. Who knows? But that was my thought about it, because the way they're introducing him, they're not just introducing Spider-Man into the cinematic universe with a solo film and then he's going to appear in Avengers Infinity War Part 1 and then Part 2. and then it goes back to solo film. He's appearing first in a Marvel film. That's how they're going to introduce this new Spider-Man. That's the deal they worked out. Now, if it turns out that this Spider-Man is not really accepted, let's say hypothetically they hire a guy to play Peter Parker Spider-Man that audiences don't really love. Is that going to hurt the cinematic universe? Is that going to hurt the deal that Sony and Marvel made? I'm not really sure. My personal thoughts is that it's not going to fail. The Spider-Man they're going to pick is not going to fail. But who knows? It may end up failing. It may end up being a bust, and then they go back to just continuing on with just solo Spider-Man films, no connection to whatsoever. But who knows about that? But I think that it's going to be a successful thing, and especially Marvel knows what they're doing, and I think that it's just going to work out in the end. One of the last things I do want to discuss, and then maybe I'll end this podcast with talking a little bit about what I would like to see in Phase 4, maybe just talking about Marvel stuff in general here on this podcast, is the Andrew Garfield situation. There's a lot of people that are angry that there's reports and rumors and speculation going around because there was no official word about the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man. And what I said in my reaction video is that I'm fine either way if they decide to go with Andrew Garfield, which is looking very unlikely at this point, or if they go with a new guy. But I was saying in the video and thinking to myself about all this news is that the Andrew Garfield, the Amazing Spider-Man films that he was a part of, the first and second one, would contradict the cinematic universe because a huge thing happened in the Amazing Spider-Man 2 with Electro, and the Amazing Spider-Man 1 had a giant lizard running around New York, and the Avengers had nothing to do with it. Now they could have easily said that the lizard attack and the Amazing Spider-Man 2 with Electro and all of that happened before the events of the first Avengers. Well, if they say that and Andrew Garfield's back, then why didn't Andrew Garfield, if he's already fought, in two battles and two films, why didn't he go help the Avengers? So I think that it's smart to go with the new cast, but I understand that people really love Andrew Garfield as Peter Parker, and I know that Andrew Garfield really loved being Spider-Man. I'll be honest with you guys, I grew up watching Tobey Maguire as being Spider-Man. I understand the third film with Venom and all of that and Sandman is hated by a lot of people, and people just dislike that film. For me personally, I don't hate it and dislike it as most people do. I will say, though, Topher Grace's Venom was a bad casting choice. I will admit that. I didn't believe him as Venom. Now, once he had the Venom suit on and he had his face covered up and it was Venom, not him wearing the symbiote and showing his face, but him actually being Venom, looked kind of cool. But it was they definitely should have explored it more and expanded on that more. But unfortunately, Venom was not in the film that much. But I like the fact that Spider-Man did have the black suit. I did like that. That was one thing I do have to agree. The dancing, not so much. So anyways, I've only seen the first Amazing Spider-Man film with Andrew Garfield. I finally saw it a little bit earlier in 2015, I know years later. But when they announced the reboot with Andrew Garfield, I wasn't interested in the film. I wasn't, and I saw images and saw clips on YouTube of the lizard, and I'll be honest with you guys, I love the Spider-Man animated series that happened back in the 90s. I grew up on that. I loved it to death. And the look of the lizard in the Amazing Spider-Man film just didn't look good to me at all. I did not like the look of it at all. And when I said this to friends of mine who are more into Spider-Man, into the comic books than I am, because I've not really been into the comic books lately and all of that, because the comic books I was into was around the time I was a little kid and into it. They said that the look of the Amazing Spider-Man lizard that they picked for the film was the look of the original lizard from the comic books. So that's cool. I get it, but I like the look of the lizard in the 90s Spider-Man animated series where he looked more like a crocodile in that series. So I personally enjoyed that look of the lizard. I did not see the Amazing Spider-Man 2 because at this time I was still not interested in watching another rebooted Spider-Man. And after hearing all the negative feedback, now I understand it wasn't a 100% negative feedback, but it was enough to make me go, I'm not really interested in watching that. I don't want to watch that film when I heard the final shot in the Amazing Spider-Man 2 is in the trailer. And I've saw that trailer where Spider-Man's about to swing something into the Rhino, and that's the final shot in the film, and they showed it in the trailer. And the fact is that they released so many trailers for the Amazing Spider-Man 2. They showed practically almost the entire film in some sort of way. You just knew what was going to happen. So I may end up watching the Amazing Spider-Man 2 one day, but probably not. But for me, at the end of all this, I think that whoever Marvel and Sony decide to pick to be the new Spider-Man, I think will be I think will be great. I think that they know what they're looking for. They're looking for a very young actor, not like middle school, but a young actor that will grow into these films and be able to not outgrow the character and able to be within a couple of solo films and of course Marvel films as well. So basically a big contract is coming to that person today or some point to sign on the dotted line to be Spider-Man in the cinematic universe and be a part of Sony's solo films as well. So, anyways, let's end this thing with a little bit about what I would like to see in Phase 4 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. We're way far off, and I understand that. But let's go on the theory, hypothetically, just a couple of thoughts about it. Let's go on the theory that Thor and Captain America are going to be retired or killed off in Phase 3 at some point, hypothetically. And let's say Iron Man does continue and Robert Downey Jr. does continue within Phase 4. I would like to see an Iron Man 4. I personally liked Iron Man 3. I know a lot of people didn't like the twist with the Mandarin, but for me personally, I did enjoy that film. I thought that it was a good Iron Man film. It focused more on Tony Stark rather than the Iron Man, because of course he went through a portal, throwing that nuke in the Avengers, and that really took a toll on him. He almost died doing it. So I understand why they took the direction that they did with focusing more on Tony Stark rather than Iron Man. So, but anyways, I did enjoy that film for what it was. Definitely wasn't the best Iron Man film, but it was definitely a good film added to the collection of the cinematic universe and within the Iron Man films. So I would like to see an Iron Man 4. I'm not really sure. I'm thinking if they do an Iron Man 4, hypothetically within Phase 4, bring the real Mandarin. Rather it's the fake Mandarin and he was just pretending to be an idiot and he is the actual Mandarin and he just got out of it. That'd be cool. I would like to see Ben Kingsley reprise his role as the Mandarin and actually be the Mandarin and prove that he fooled Tony Stark and everybody else that he was not the Mandarin, but who knows. So Iron Man 4. I would love to see a Hulk film. I would love to see another Hulk film within the cinematic universe. Now, the Incredible Hulk they created with Edward Norton back in 2008 is a part of the cinematic universe, but it's not Mark Ruffalo. I would love to see Mark Ruffalo perform in a Hulk film. Now, who would he fight? I don't know. I mean, he fought the Abomination, Edward Norton did, in 2008, and the Abomination is not dead. However, it would be kind of strange, at least for me, if Mark Ruffalo fought the Abomination as the Hulk again in a new Hulk film in Phase 4, because it would just be kind of strange having a different looking Hulk fighting a different looking Abomination, or it's kind of similar, but it's obvious it's a different type of Hulk and it's a new guy. It would just seem kind of strange. So maybe Hulk could fight the leader, because they did tease the leader. Now, obviously that still is Edward Norton not playing the Hulk again, but the leader was obviously teased at some point. So they were probably planning on using the leader in another Hulk film, but it just never happened. So they could go that direction. I'm just not really sure. Now, people have said Planet Hulk, which I understand the comic book. I have not. I understand it is a comic book series. I've not really looked into it. I think he's on a planet or something, which references the name Planet Hulk. Stupid me, but I'm not really sure the plot, and I'm not sure how it would fit in the cinematic universe. I think he has to be sent to space or something like that. People have referenced he needs to go to space, but yeah. So I would like to see a Hulk film. Obviously, I would like to see another Guardians of the Galaxy film. I know Guardians of the Galaxy 2 will probably be a huge success like the first one. So definitely a third one, I would like to see that. Because Guardians of the Galaxy, I mean, that first film was just so fantastic. It was such a great film that I really do enjoy watching it from time to time. It's just a funny film. It's a serious film when it needs to be. And it introduces us to 5 characters in the group that we were not familiar with. Like, honestly, I have never heard of Guardians of the Galaxy until the announcement of this film back when it was announced in 2012. So, it was definitely interesting to see that because I watched it with a friend who already saw it, and I was blown away. I thought I was gonna like it. I thought I was gonna like be, oh, it's okay. It's not great or anything, but it was really good. It was one of the best films, in my personal opinion, of 2014. So definitely a third Guardians of the Galaxy film. Honestly, this would be really cool. People have been referencing this because Marvel has the rights back to Daredevil. They're making a Daredevil Netflix series, which, I think it looks pretty cool. I'm really excited to see Kingpin in that series. I would like to see a Spider-Man Daredevil film with the guy who plays Daredevil in the TV show. Spider-Man and Daredevil team up to do a film together. Make it a Daredevil film from the cinematic universe and have Spider-Man come in. I think that'd be really, really cool because there's been a lot of comic book stories of them both together. So I would like to see that. Maybe. Who knows? Um, hmm. If we're going to retire Captain America, maybe because there's two directions they could go with Captain America. If Chris Evans is done after Avengers Infinity War, the two Avenger films, Infinity War, then they could easily go with the Winter Soldier. Bucky becomes Captain America. It's happened in the comic books. Or they can go with Falcon becoming Captain America, because that has also happened in the comic books. So they could easily go in the direction of Bucky becoming Captain America in Phase 4, or Falcon becoming Captain America in Phase 4. Now, his name escapes me, but the man who plays the Winter Soldier Bucky has, I believe, 7 more films under contract with Marvel. Now understand, when you're signed on for a contract to make films, and this is how many films you have within the contract, the studio does not have to use all those films. So he could be signed on for 7 more films, which I believe that has been confirmed, that he is signed on for 7 more films. They could just say, we're only going to use you for 2 of the 7, and you don't have to do the other 5. We don't need you. But if they decide to go that, I would like to see a Captain America film with either Falcon becoming Captain America, like him becoming the new Captain America, or Bucky. Either way, I think it's a cool choice either way, because they're both great actors, and I would like to see them doing more. And I think if one of them became Captain America, that's going to be something special, in my personal opinion. Now the question is, hypothetically, they kill Thanos in Phase 3. They kill him off. They kill Thanos in Avengers Infinity War Part 2. Who could the villain be in Phase 4, in the next Avengers film? Who could the villain be? And honestly, I have no clue. I have to do some more research about villains, because the only villain that I can think of, and I've been told I pronounced this wrong, but I'm gonna try it anyways. Galactus, or however you pronounce his name, the big guy that fights the Fantastic Four. Now, obviously, they can't use Fantastic Four because of Fox. However, that's the only villain I can think of that's above Thanos. Now, obviously, they can go back down to just fighting somebody who is obviously not as strong as Thanos, because they're going to have a whole new lineup of Avengers in Phase 4. That's kind of how it's going to go with Doctor Strange, and Black Panther, Spider-Man. So they're going to have a new cast of Avengers in Phase 4. So they could easily go back to fighting somebody else. I mean, honestly, I wouldn't personally mind, but probably people who are fans of the Avengers probably would have an issue. But I would personally like to see the Sinister Six fighting the Avengers. That'd be kind of cool, having Spider-Man villains fighting the new Avengers. Venom. Just going off top of the head here. Venom, Doctor Octopus. The Lizard. They could have. They could have Electro. They could have Electro pop up. They could have the Green Goblin. They could have a bunch of people. They could have more than 6 if they really wanted to. Call it whatever, the Sinister Team or something. Just having Spider-Man villains, which I think are very strong villains. Like, Spider-Man has always had really cool villains. So Phase 4, it'd be really cool to see the new Avengers with Doctor Strange, Black Panther, Spider-Man, Captain Marvel. All these people, if that's how the new Avengers goes, fighting Spider-Man villains. It's kind of a stretch, but hey, it'd be kind of cool because it's a team of villains fighting a team of good guys. So there you go. So, anyways, guys, that is the end of my first podcast. I'm going to end it right here because honestly, I have nothing else to talk about. So, anyways, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this audio podcast. And if you guys did, let me know in the comment section below. And if you want me to continue this, let me know as well because I am very excited about this. I like this new format, just talking and just throwing my opinion out there and just kind of having speculations and discussing different things. So understand that this podcast is not going to be just about Marvel and stuff like that. It will discuss many different things like movie news if I want to talk about it, or talking about video games or TV show or movies in general, just stuff that I'm interested in, and hopefully you guys will be too. Anyways, guys, thank you guys for listening. I'll see you guys soon.